Thank you for tuning in to today's Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Mark Fox from ZWAREMACHINE. There's a couple of big things for ZWAREMACHINE on the horizon.
Yes, please let me know.
The Industrial EBM Power Electronics Festival.
Novo Festival, yes.
This Thursday and Friday at the Luring. It's the 16th and the 17th.
Yep.
And then at the very end of the month.
Yes, Midwest Industrial.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, could you say a little bit about this event and that event, and then we'll dive into the record?
Well, Novo Festival is put on by some local promoters, and Sam is involved from Phage Tapes, our record label that put out the ZWAREMACHINE record, and got Seth, who plays in Burning, a really great local industrial band.
So that's a 2-day thing? Like, is it throughout the entire day on both days?
I believe it's going to start early around 8 or 8:30 each night. Okay. And there's also some DJs, so I think, there's just enough bands to keep it rolling, and everyone's going to do shorter sets maybe, except the headliners, the bigger acts. And,
what time is your set?
We play probably close to doors on Thursday night.
Nice.
So early. We're the first or second band that night.
Cool.
We'll kick off the festival right.
And then you're kicking off the Midwest Industrial Nights. There's gonna be more than one eventually?
It's nothing like a monthly. I'm just trying to corral some bands together and get some scene excitement going over all these great bands in the Twin Cities that need to be seen and heard, and we're all releasing music, so.
And you'll be including bands in the long run from like Chicago and beyond, so Midwestern.
Yeah, I would consider it a Midwest thing. I don't want it to be just Twin Cities based, and it'll be whatever it is. I just want people to know that there's this music coming out from the Midwest that's really good.
We can hear some of the really good Midwest industrial music right now in the form of ZWAREMACHINE. This is the song with which the record begins, Pulse. Start at the beginning, feel the pulse in your brain. That's the note on which it begins. What is the significance of that very self-conscious emphasis of this is the beginning, start at the beginning, and this is the attitude with which one must start?
It's not so introspective as it might seem to you. It was more based on a horror, like vampires and zombie type.
Sure. It's more visceral than it is cerebral.
Yes. I do like albums and records that are like complete from start to end and like maybe take you through a journey. I'm not saying it's a concept album by any means, but I feel like having an intro that's maybe just a couple minutes long, setting a mood and a tone.
What is the tone?
Well, I call it minimal, hypnotic, industrial body music.
Yeah.
It's just like grinding, driving drums that just kind of pulse along. A lot of repetitive bass patterns. Like instead of writing an measure that's 8 or 16, I'll chop it down to 2 and just let it loop really quickly.
Which creates a hypnotic effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The fact that body is in the title, in the title of the genre, as you just described it. I mean, the pulse. The body has a pulse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like activate the body in response to this music.
Well, and I like you mentioned, get in the moment. I want to have this be like stepping into a different fantasy world. There's parts of it that are real, parts of it that are science fiction, parts of it that are horror.
Yeah.
But you're there, and if you can sit through that whole album, there's some themes you'll recognize throughout the lyrics.
So there's lyrics, but then there's also like samples. And in Pulse we have the child wants to play hide and go kill. What is the significance of the inclusion of that?
Just from a horror movie.
Right.
I mean, it's a bit cliche to use those horror movie samples, but that fits our vibe, I feel like.
But the idea of playing, but then this like ominous like it's not hide and go seek, it's hide and go kill.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of darkness, this dark playing, and that comes through like obviously there's the song Dark Energy, spelled DRKNRG.
I do that short notation. It's kind of a Prince thing when you're writing lyrics quickly. It's just was easier, and it just stayed that way. Also, I worked with Dark Energy for a while doing visuals.
Yeah, with the
so it was
the
kind of
knights and
like,
the
yeah,
princes,
it was
Dark Energy,
it was kind of like with and for them also, but
yeah.
I didn't want it
Like
to
an
be
homage.
like, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
want it to spell it the same, so I just spelled it a little differently, so it's
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Nice, so you pay homage and you differentiate the song from the night.
Yep.
Dark Energy. So could you describe what Dark Energy, not just the night or the song, but the thing, what is Dark Energy, and what is the song, conveying sonically, conceptually about Dark Energy?
Boy, that's a tough one. That sample just kind of like, I just liked the things that were being said,
Yeah, the tone,
and
the sound of it.
I just dropped in the samples that I liked. It doesn't have a huge significant meaning to me. There was a night that I used to do at Club Underground called Dark Matter.
Oh, right.
And I would,
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay,
I've heard of
because
you doing that.
Venus,
Yeah.
DeMars had Venus Space Lounge.
Sure.
And when she needed the night off or had another gig, I would step in and do my Dark Matter night.
Yes.
And
Was there a particular significance behind calling that Dark Matter?
just to have dark in the title,
Yeah.
and I was trying to keep it dark electronic music and
Yeah.
DJs. So, the live bands, I would kind of not. It would be mostly electronic based. I didn't really want rock bands in that mood for that show, but. It's just Dark Matter. It just seemed like a cool thing to call it.
It definitely is cool. Darkness is cool.
Yeah.
And obviously there's kind of black aesthetic. So one of the things I find most interesting about the record, and this came up in a few reviews that I read as well, in this Italian review by David Popolaro, apologies to David if I'm mispronouncing it.
I'm not-
Probably.
I think it might be
David?
Davide too. I'm not even
Davide,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, I've never met him.
However his name is said, he has some very insightful things to say about the record, including that the palette is broad, giving space not only to darkness. And I think that's really true. I mean, it's called Be a Light.
Yep.
So that's really interesting, that the aesthetic is dark, there's the song Dark Energy, you have the night Dark Matter, and yet Be a Light is like the manifesto almost, or that's like the principle in the song Be a Light. It's like,
Well, that was a
Invited
rare
someone to be
bit of
alive.
optimism for my
Yeah.
lyrical content, I felt like.
and then you draw attention to it.
Yeah,
you
and
put it at the center.
I think a few people noted that too and said, well, that's a cool line or whatever. I just, a lot of times when I'm writing lyrics, it's the phonetics that I'm fitting to the music.
Yeah.
But sometimes the things that I come up with might just sound good to me at the time, and I didn't really think, oh, that's optimistic.
Yeah.
But later on, when I thought back to it, I'm like, that's uncharacteristic, and I can go with that to say something positive instead of
If it's true.
yeah.
It's difficult to say something that's simultaneously positive and as true as the dark, bleak things that we realize in good music.
Yeah, especially in this time, I feel like saying something like "be a light like only you can" and encouraging people to be their best self, maybe.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely. That's the full lyric that we're talking about, isn't it? Be a light like only you can.
Yes.
So it's like a call to be not someone else's idea of what one ought to be, of what the good person is, whatever, but to be one's best self. The other lyrics include outfight, outman, outduns. So to be a light like only you can might involve a great deal of dancing. Do the thing that is you in only the way that you can.
Yeah,
don't
and be proud of it.
Be proud of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the record is called Be a Light.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you feel like that ethos kind of suffuses the record as a whole?
Well, yeah, there. For instance, a song like "Another Way."
Yeah.
That one is in that vein too, where I'm just trying to tell people find another way to do your thing and be a light also.
So the lyric there is find another way to disconnect. And I
Yeah.
thought that there's at least two ways to read that lyric. And I think the song kind of invites both, or even, invites the positive one more than the negative one. So the negative one, I think, is find another way to disconnect. Like we found one way, maybe escapism through, you know, watching a meaningless TV show or something, and then and life is just about finding other ways, just find another way to disconnect. But the positive way to read it is like, find another way, find a better way to disconnect from this negative environment. Like if you hate the environment, there's better ways to disconnect from it.
That's more, yeah, that's kind of where I was coming from with that one, I think.
Which is also very positive.
Yeah. I don't know what, I'm changing, I guess.
Yeah, but in a way, you're finding it being a light in the way that only you can.
Yeah, and disconnecting from the negative things, the things that, you know, we can't stand.
As your sense of value has shifted, perhaps, is that having any impact on sonically, any aspect of what's happening?
You mean of the
just the
sound production?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the lyrics, they take on more meaning as time goes by to me than when I first write them down and sing them even sometimes. When the songs were recorded, those were just the words I had. Now I've had time to reflect and, you know, to see other people like finding things in them too is really rewarding to me. And it's nice when it's pointed out because I'm like, someone listened and they paid attention more than just bobbing their head to some cool music.
As much as bobbing the head is important to music that is hypnotic and body music.
That's a good thing too.
Yeah, exactly. You want the bodily reaction.
No, the interview you mentioned in Flux magazine though, I've really got a kick out of people from around the world, like different countries, like who have been around this music a lot longer than the U.S. has had body music and EBM. It's I feel like it's a little newer here. A lot of U.S. bands do it now, whereas in the 80s, it wasn't happening here. There was hair metal and a whole different scene of music. So when these people point out things and appreciate the music, that means a lot to me from a newer EBM style. Another phrase that I was struck by in that same review or interview was obsessive grooving patterns. There is a fair amount of groove, I think. Yeah, and so I grew up in Minneapolis. We had lots of great music. But the sexy things like Prince and grooves and bass lines are a huge part of EBM. It's drum machines and bass lines for me. But something like Our Revenge and something, I let the bass line kind of move around, but I tried to keep the drums super tight and militant and very quantized. The drums never have a groove. Interesting juxtaposition. Yeah, the bass will have the groove if there is, the bass synth. So there's this regimentation, but then there's groove as well. Yeah. Which one doesn't necessarily expect to have together. I think that's just my roots in, funk and disco and, all kinds of other music that I loved kind of getting in there. Previous projects of yours too? Yeah, I have asked bass players to play the funk disco octave many times. Nice. Good. Yeah, we can continue to do so, please. It's great. Yes. We're talking about Our Revenge, and that's another one which is an interesting twist. We would expect, a song called Our Revenge to be about revenge, but the lyric is, "This is not our revenge." And we raise a hand, I'll make a fist, but I'm not mad. So there's these images that one would expect, that one associates with revenge and with aggression, but then the lyrics, at least, are highlighting, but that's not what this is. Why this is not our revenge? I love wordplay. Yeah. And I'm never going to be, I think people are listening to my lyrics and paying attention more than I ever thought they would. Right. Like I say, I'm just spitting stuff out there a lot of times, and that one that came about actually from a collaboration with a German artist way back, probably around 2012. Okay. And it was just the lines I came up with, and that's like a really old ZWAREMACHINE song. One of the oldest? Yeah. I mean, the first song was called The ZWAREMACHINE, and that was written in 2011, so, it's in that era of early ZWAREMACHINE songs. Okay, so and what is the ZWAREMACHINE? Well, it was inspired by an artist, Paul Gerard. Oh, yeah. And he did the artwork for both ZWAREMACHINE releases. Yep. but he does like biomechanical, like nightmarish, just crazy looking things. So the ZWAREMACHINE was like a biomechanical beast from another planet taking over Earth and humankind and becoming the new leader. Zwaar means heavy in Dutch.
Yep.
So we have a lot of equipment and it's heavy and I'm sick of carrying it. So it really fits the band now more than maybe
Than it
in
did
the past.
when you first kind of christened.
I just kind of used it because I had a song and I'm like, well, we got a song, so that's the band name.
Yeah. I like how it's tied, like right from the get-go then, it's been tied to this aesthetic and these visuals.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of having Paul be our artist.
Yeah.
You know, he's contributed amazing artwork. He works on films and has his own books and lots of great art. So to have him let us use his artwork and be a part of this is really great.
It strikes me as interesting that we have not person to person.
Not there.
On the cover just here, these kind of alien beings, some kind of contact, some kind of communication, but they are eye to eye. So those are the two songs that we haven't talked about yet. What's happening with those two songs, the fourth track and the final track, person to person?
Well, I was messing around on the synthesizers and synthesized the vowel sound of I.
Yeah.
So I had a backing vocal almost in the track already saying the I, different pitches of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's something I have to sing over. So that wrote itself, the I part. I can't really like explain that one much. I don't have a lot to say about it other than it just felt right to sing those lyrics with it.
I think the vocal delivery and like the words that are made out kind of just create this impression of there being this being that is like creating, that is powerful, that is constructing a narrative.
Definitely
it's in control.
In the horror and an ominous figure type perspective, I think.
Yeah, and it's just saying I.
I should,
drawing attention to its power.
And I'm a little self-conscious of that one sometimes because it's not about me personally. It's not like, oh, I did this, I do that.
It's a character.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
maybe the ZWAREMACHINE.
Yeah. It's a lot of that. I mean, a lot of this fantasy horror world that my lyrics revolve around aren't personal at all.
Yeah, sure.
I'm creating a story or from a third person perspective.
I'd say that maybe another way is actually the one that's expanding most on this dystopian context with cybercrimes in the mirror world.
That one was the hardest to write for the record because it had completely different lyrics. It was called White Boot.
Oh. Right.
And in this day and age, I didn't want it to be taken by the right,
absolutely,
you know, like any alternative meaning that it was more about maybe a white vinyl boot in the S&M world and that kind of thing. But with the lyrics and the timing, I just wasn't comfortable with that. And I asked the band, I'm like, what do you think about this? And they're like, change it.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad that you did. I mean,
it went through many incarnations. It was a Dungeons and Dragons type song. It had like lots of things that I couldn't find the right vibe, and it was the last song that was finished for the record because by then I had all the artwork. I had a real sense of the world that the album was in, and then I was like, okay, I know.
I feel like it's the one that sets the scene of the world the most.
Well, because it was the one, everything else was done.
Right.
So I had everything to choose from, and the whole world had been built. So I just had to sing what else is happening.
Yeah. Give Your Mind a Rotting Home is one of the most interesting lyrical moments, I think. And especially because, you know, there's an emphasis on the body in your description of the genre. You know, is the body the rotting home for the mind?
You know, that's a nod to Alien Sex Fiend.
Oh, sure.
A band that was hugely influenced by from the 80s on. And
so is that a lyric from
no, but I feel like it could have been. It could have been. I can't think of the specific song, but it's definitely close to their a title of a song or lyrics they use.
Sure.
It's a definite nod to them.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Person to Person. That's a direct love song to Front 242.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just they have a song called Body to Body.
Okay.
So
Oh,
I played
interesting.
off that a little bit,
Yeah.
and it was the most like EBM song on the record, I felt like, for us. So
And so it's interesting that the record begins with feeling the pulse in your brain, which in the meantime perhaps finds a rotting home in the body. So there's this call, like, you know, from person to person, you know, here's a pulse, let your body respond to this. A person to person address, and then it ends with a song called Person to Person. Do you feel like the music is kind of inviting people to have a certain kind of, you know, very visceral engagement with it?
I feel like it's a personal call. I mean, it's about the force of the music and, you know, the lyrics, and I wanted something people can shout along to or, you know, be engaged with that is just like a chant,
Yeah.
you know, more than a whole long lyrical line that's a chorus that has a lot of words. This is just 2 words over and over and over.
Person to person.
Yeah.
But then that's surrounded by these really interesting bits of social commentary or reflection, even statements about, like, yeah, it's sociological and philosophical. No central authority, you know, is
Yep.
lyric. And human nature, fear of missing out. Just like, you know, the previous song, Another Way, on the record, is setting this scene, this dystopian scene. I feel like the final song is beyond the scene, the particular mirror world of ZWAREMACHINE. It's making these, just in these like isolated phrases, giving this impression of like almost like a philosophy of human nature or something. Human nature, fear of missing out. Is ZWAREMACHINE informed by a particular interpretation of human nature, do you think? It seems like the song with that lyric seems to suggest it might be.
Well, I got a few of those lines from a cyber documentary type things I was watching, and just like things stood out, like the no central authority and just like you say, the dystopian themes that were, you know, that I was dwelling on, I guess. I do have a pessimistic worldview, and I have ideas about science fiction and technology from movies. So, you know, like I say, it's a lot of it's fantasy, and, you know, in my mind, it's not a real statement on my philosophy of humankind. It's just the world that I wanted the record to be in, and kind of a way to express the cyber theme without the music. I've had a goal to try to create cyber music, whatever that is, I don't know. I have a feeling it has way less retro feel than my music, and probably drums that are more machine sounding than real drums, but and I still haven't been able to do it, but I've at least explored it with the lyrics.
Right.
And I'm still working on the cyber music part.
And are you working on new ZWAREMACHINE stuff at the moment?
Yeah, I think we'll be recording again in September.
Oh, soon. Next month.
But I think it's gonna sound like this record, I think. I mean, that's what it sounds like now. And
that's good.
My goal is to like write the music on hardware and then have it sound like that on the record usually. So we won't record something and then it won't change in the studio or through, you know, production. It's gonna just sound better and, you know, more precise. I feel like ZWAREMACHINE, we're just kind of retro, and that's what we are, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, don't change that. This is a good sound.
Oh,
I'd
cool.
like to hear more of it. But it's exciting, but there is another way, perhaps, that you'll also simultaneously be exploring. Nice to kind of end with that note on another way. I feel like ZWAREMACHINE is a particular mirror world universe that we inhabit and that we can relate to our own dystopian reality. And yet, within that, there's this emphasis on there being other ways, and perhaps despite or maybe because of there being no central authority that can be trusted, there is this call to be a light in the way that only you can, to discover your own way to be a light, to find another more productive, life-affirming way to be.
If something positive comes out of the lyrics, that's great. If people want to be inspired, you know, and
Yeah.
not be terrified, that's even better.
Yeah. And not just the lyrics, but the combination of the lyrics and the invitation to respond hypnotically to this pulse. Like, you know, one might expect hypnotic, like body music, to be this kind of, someone else might think, oh, it's a malevolent thing, like kind of mind control. But the combination of like how it sounds, the liberation that it kind of invites, and those like mantras, like the positive mantras, is definitely, you know, really interesting, I think.
Well, I think it has to be noted too. I am a fan of pop music and
Yeah.
production. I like a good hook.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've even called our stuff pop industrial.
Yeah.
I've referred with friends. I don't want to bill it that way generally, but I feel like there's a certain element, like you said, with maybe Our Revenge or something, where there's a little bit of a different feel. It's not a hard,
Yeah.
It's maybe aggressive in the sounds, but not the groove isn't super aggressive like
Yeah.
other bands I listen to, and it's not, you know, as dark as our imagery and our world is, the music isn't that dark. It's
Yeah.
kind of pop industrial at times.
I
So
walked away from your record release having acquired a pop record.
oh yes, you
what-
won the obsession with your great backing vocals. That was fun.
It is fun, and I really love the inclusion of that.
Yeah, I thought
The
people
being
would get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, why is this band doing this cover? And we're still working on
with
that
Nicole.
one in the background.
with Nicole Jean Rady.
Yeah.
On that occasion.
Sometimes we'll have some different people come and sing it with us too, but yeah, it was just a fun way to get her on stage too. She's a really good friend.
She is
great
great.
person to hang out with. She's got, so I can't even keep up with her.
Yeah.
She's go. So it was a fun way to like get some other people involved and
Yeah.
kind of get out of our world, you know, and say, hey, you're at the show, you're already on the dance floor, you might want to dance.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Have a good time.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
in what better context to be a light in the way in which only, you know, the people who have come to that show can.
Yep.
You know, the way in which people who have come to enjoy ZWAREMACHINE, enjoy Obsession, is going to be different, perhaps, from the way in which, you know, that song, the original, might be enjoyed at a dance night.
Yep. And one other thing about Be a Light, that's 4 choruses and 1 verse. There's only 1 verse. It starts off with a chorus, there's a verse, and then there's like 3 choruses. That's
Yeah.
the complete vocal arrangement on that one. So, you know, it was kind of pushing that theme.
Yeah, and mantras are like hypnosis, aren't they? So that song really, it just like, there's just enough bursts for a bit of variety, and maybe to, you know, lyrically it just provides a little bit more context as to what's going on. But most of it is just this mantra that hypnotizes one, but hypnotizes one to be one. It's the opposite. Hypnosis is like lose oneself, lose one's sense of identity, and have one's mind be controlled. But this is a mantra that invites one to find oneself, find one's identity, to be that which only one can be. Which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the note on which we should end. Be a light, as only you can. You in particular, whoever you may be. And 2 contexts in which you can do so are August 16th at the Loring.
Thursday, August 16th at the Loring for Novo Festival.
And then Friday, August 31st.
Yep, Friday, August 31st at the Nomad for Midwest Industrial presents Seacostra, ZWAREMACHINE, Depot Tech, and Grave Society. Nice. You get a really broad range of the Midwest Industrial and what's going on here.
Cool. So yeah, we'll see you there. This has been Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder. This is ZWAREMACHINE, Mark Fox and ZWAREMACHINE. And we'll see you at one of those 2 events.